So when we speak to clients, we speak to them about their money, but more importantly, we speak to them about their lives. And I'm a firm believer in practicing what you preach. So if I'm talking to clients about how to manage their life better, I've really got to look in the mirror and do that myself. So part of that was making sure that we focused on all areas for me personally, including sort of having my own financial plan, but also making sure that I was spending time with my family, looking after my health, and managing my life more holistically, because life and time is more important to me than money. I do a number of things to try and make sure I get the right balance. I run a podcast with my daughter called The Kindness Project. And on that, we speak to people. The only remit of being a guest on the podcast is you do amazing, positive stuff in the world. And it gives us an opportunity not only to spend time with my family, my daughter, working on the podcast, but as an excuse to just phone people up and say, you're really interested, I'd like to talk to you. And I get a real buzz of sharing stories of positivity in the world. We've been running that now for 2 years. We've got about 20,000 subscribers on the podcast, and that's growing every week. But the satisfaction I get from it is just helping people share stories of positivity. I think there's enough negative news in the world, and if we can have a little chink of light in that darkness, we're doing our job. So I think balance is important, and it's important to make sure that I maintain my physical as well as mental health. But I think whilst maintaining my physical health, I can do some good as well. And what I'm doing at the minute is training to run a marathon, the London Marathon, slowly, but I will certainly get round for an amazing hospice, end-of-life hospice called St Francis, that's based in Havering, where our business is based. And that takes a lot of commitment, but certainly something I'm really looking forward to. Physical exercise and running the podcast takes a decent chunk of my time, particularly training for a marathon, but I like to read. So I read everything from fiction to business books to autobiographies, and there's always some glimmers of useful information there that you can potentially use both in your life and your business. I'm currently reading about Stoic philosophy, and that's been really useful to maintain an amazing balance, because the Stoics talk a lot about only worrying about things that you can control, and I've found that massively useful over the last couple of years. I write a lot for press, financial press, and for the blog and the website. But the book that I'm writing at the minute, which hopefully will be finished in 2020, is just our experiences interviewing hundreds of amazing people for the podcast. Because what I've learned from speaking to brilliant people is there's always stuff that you can improve on, and speaking to people about the stuff they do that's amazing in the world, and sharing those stories is my next big writing project. First of all, and I would say this as a financial planner, but start with the end in mind. What do you want to achieve? And if it's spending more time with the family, be intentional about that. One of the things that I try to do is make sure I'm really intentional with my time, and balance the work and family. So one of the things that I've done recently is cut down to a 4-day week, and I find I get as much work done in that 4 days as I did when I was working 5. So be intentional with time, but be very conscious that it's easy to waste time, and think about when you're putting meetings in the diary or spending your days, what you actually enjoy, what actually brings value to your life and your business, and just spend time doing that, and try and find ways to just exclude everything else. And I think the final tip is be conscious that a lot of time's wasted just spending mental energy worrying about stuff you can't have any impact on. So what I find really useful is just focusing on the elements of my life that I've got an influence on and an impact. So worry about what you can change, and it's not easy, but try and ignore everything else.